I got to thinking this morning. Coffee thoughts were about the housing crisis in Vermont. Yet again, we have revisited this because I am lamenting that there are things I'm working towards, and I'm not going to dive into that, but it is directly impacted by housing. So as a renter in Vermont, you are protected. You're sort of locked in. They can't raise your rent more than 20%, which is nice. However, what can happen is you can get pushed out. Say your landlord sells the property that you're renting, or something happens and you're displaced, right? Whatever happens and you're displaced, going into a new rental here, it's impossible. This was all sparked by a post that was made by somebody who was reflecting, like they said, in 2009 when they were waitressing, they could afford a 1-bedroom apartment, and now as a lawyer with a degree and making significantly more money, they cannot afford that same exact apartment. That's a huge deal. It's a huge deal. And so when we talk about the housing crisis, a lot of people still have the perspective like, oh, there's not enough housing in Vermont for all the people. But that's not true, because there is places for rent. They're just not affordable, so people can't move into those rentals now. And renters aren't the only ones who are suffering, because landlords have to pay the cost of construction. Construction costs have gone up. So anytime there's a repair or a renovation or anything like that, these landowners are having to shell out a lot more money. And so it's just not this like profitable business that it once was to be a landowner. So even they have it bad. So this is what it brought me to. The idea that, the classes exist anymore is wrong. It's false. There is such a huge gap between poverty and the filthy rich that we're all struggling. Like, just be kind to each other, because holy crap, like we are there. I remember vividly the recession of 2009 while I was still I was like an older teenager, young adult. I remember it not being this bad. And with that being said, why is it not being talked about? Why is it that it seems kind of hush-hush? That raises a huge red flag for me, personally. I'm thinking, like, why is it not being talked about? I know it's hinted at and sort of covered on the news, but it's very different. It's very different in each state. But it's like, this is very different than the recession in 2009. People are really struggling. So if you're out there wondering how the hell you're going to do this and how the hell you're going to rent or get into a new place, you're not alone. There's so many people. And I think the system is rigged right now. It's not, it's definitely, the system is broken and is not working. I don't have the answers. I would love to make a post like this and say, hey, let's try this, but I need to do some more thinking about what that would look like. But I will tell you one thing I thought of was collaboration. So one way to sort of beat that system is to collaborate with friends, family, whomever. And I think we might see people dipping into what they did in like the times of the Great Depression, where it was multi-generational homes, multi-family homes. I think that's our answer right now until things change, if they change. Well, they're bound to change, but whether they'll change for the good is the question. So what can you do? You can be a decent community member, be kind, don't be harsh, understand that most people are struggling, and they're compartmentalizing these things, so it's not personal if they're not thinking about your struggles. They're thinking about theirs because that's what people do when they're in survival mode. So awareness goes a long way, communication goes a long way, and by God, fucking collaborate. Collaborate. I personally am such a hyper independent person that I am trying to mull myself out of that mindset myself. Even though I'm so aware, I am hyper independent and I don't want to rely on another human being because, but I think it's time that we start doing that. We're going to have to. I am from Vermont, so if you're viewing this from another state, I'm curious, what is your experience with this particular topic, this particular crisis? What is your experience in your state? I mean, is it the same? I don't know. We're kind of cushioned up here in Vermont. We're kind of like, not isolated, but I'm really up in the north. So we're like in a small town. So, impacts like this hitting us where, in the recession, this small little town was okay, this is actually like really hitting heavy here too. And I'm curious what it is like in other states. Share it. I want to hear it from the people, not from a news center, not from mainstream media, not from somebody who's going to filter out what they want people to understand and believe. I want to hear it straight from you guys. What is going on in your town regarding housing? Is it the same? Is it worse? Is it better? I'm curious. Yeah. And is there anybody out there who's doing the collaboration piece? Like, they're homesteading and they have more than one family on this homestead. And is it working for you? And what was your challenges? And what's the pros and cons? Give us some advice here, because we definitely need to, if we can't embark on our journeys utilizing a system that's not working for us, what are some of the differences that are being done out there that, what are some of the people who aren't subscribing to it? How's that working out for you? I'm really curious. Anyways, frustrated morning coffee thoughts. Happy Tuesday. I just the meme again. So I'm for those of you that don't know me well, I'm polyamorous. So my partner and I make jokes about how can you afford to be monogamous in this current societal structure in the U.S. Banding together many resources seems ideal at this point. Anyways, I look forward to reading the comments. Maybe there'll be a part 2 on this as I digest what people have to say.